In an ignorant world, it must have sounded plausible. It is interesting, however, that neither Muhammad, our Rahman, nor Allah bothered to explain how or when these gross deceptions crept into the Bible. And this task becomes increasingly difficult for Muslims because their God said in Koran 80:13 that the Judeo-Christian scriptures were in good hands.
In honored books exalted in dignity, kept pure and holy, written by the hands of scribes, honourable, pious, just, noble, and righteous.
The general consensus among Islamic scholars is that the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament, was corrupted when Jews failed to accept Christ. And the Christian Bible, the New Testament, was corrupted when Christians failed to accept Muhammad. The following hadith from their traditions forms the basis of this doctrinal view. It comes from Bukhari's Book of Hiring, Volume 3, Book 36, number 471. It can also be found in the Noble Quran, attached to Surah 41:46.
Bukhari. The Prophet said, "The example of the Jews, Christians, and Muslims is like the example of a man who employed Jewish laborers to work for him from morning till night for specific wages. They worked till midday, and then said, 'We do not need your money, which you have fixed for us, and let whatever we have done be annulled.' The man said, 'Don't quit. Complete the rest and take your full wages.' But they refused and went away. The man employed another batch after them and said to the Christians, 'Complete the rest, and yours will be the wages I had fixed for the first batch.' So they worked until the time of Asr, afternoon, prayer. Then they said, 'Let what we have been done be annulled, and keep the wages you have promised.' The man said, 'Complete the rest of the work, as only a little remains.' But they refused. Thereafter he employed others, Muslims this time, and they worked till sunset. They received the wages of the two former batches. So they represented the example of the Jews and Christians, and then the Muslims who accepted the Koran and Sunnah which the Prophet brought."
Recognizing this wasn't a very good explanation, and knowing that the story was a twisted rip-off of one of Christ's parables, the Islamic scholars who translated the passage added this footnote.
The Jews refused to believe in the message of Jesus, so all their work was annulled. Similarly, the Christians refused to accept the message of Muhammad, and thus their work was annulled too. Such people were not rewarded, because they refused true faith and died unbelievers. They should have accepted the latest message. Their insistence on keeping their old religion deprived them of any reward. On the other hand, Muslims accepted the new religion and believed in all three messages. They deserved a full reward for their complete surrender to Allah.
Unfortunately for Muslims, this scenario is impossible. How can one believe all three messages since they are radically different? More importantly, if Judeo-Christianity is a true message, what's the justification for a new religion? And as difficult as these questions are, the most troubling still lingers. How and when did the Judeo-Christian scriptures get corrupted? Fact is, they didn't. The Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, survives to this day. It serves as irrefutable proof that nothing has changed. It was translated 275 years before the Christian era. It matches today's Old Covenant with astonishing fidelity. Then you have the Dead Sea Scrolls. They were found by a Bedouin shepherd boy in the caves of Qumran. They date between 250 BC and 70 AD. They were thus written during the very period Muhammad claims the Bible was corrupted. These 2,000-year-old scrolls prove that the foundation of Islam is fictitious. They are virtually indistinguishable from today's text. The New Covenant condemns the Islamic theory as well. By the time the Muslims said it was corrupted, there were hundreds of translations and as many as 100,000 copies distributed throughout the civilized world. Do you suppose they were all brought together and altered in identical fashion just to spite Muhammad? Or is it more likely that Allah doesn't know what he's talking about? That's the crux of the issue. If the Bible wasn't corrupted in a massive and conspiratorial fashion, Islam can't be trusted. correcting the Torah and Gospel, setting the record straight, returning to the true religion were central to Muhammad's mission. If the Scripture wasn't garbled, Islam loses its justification. If the Bible wasn't massively degraded to the point that it would be unrecognizable, the cornerstone of Islam is a lie. To believe that Team Islam was right and that the Hebrew prophets were wrong, one has to dismiss the fact that most of the Quran's stories and characters were lifted from Jewish oral tradition in the Talmud. Additionally, the Medinan surahs say that Muhammad had to pay Jews for access to their scriptures during the formation of his religion.
O children of Israel, call to mind my, that's Allah's, favor which I bestowed on you, and believe in what I have revealed, verifying the Torah, which is with you. Be not the first to deny, the Quran, neither take a mean price in exchange for my scriptures. In other words, don't sell Bible stories to Muhammad. Give them to him. Do not mix up the truth with falsehood, nor hide the truth when you know it. Quran 2:40.
There are a dozen more verses like this, all designed to demean Jews for charging Muhammad when he needed more scripture to call his own. The Jews recognized the discrepancies between the accounts they had read to Muhammad and his convoluted revisions. It was obvious that the alterations were attributable to crises in his life rather than consistent with the lives of the biblical characters they had described. So they mocked Muhammad, as you and I might have done had we been in their shoes. Had Muhammad invented his religion independent of the Bible, comparisons would be unnecessary. If Muslims were not killing us while shouting, Allahu Akbar, Allah is greater, they would be unimportant. But he did, and they are, so it is. The Judeo-Christian faiths are wholly independent and separate from Islam. They neither gain nor lose any authenticity from a comparison. The Bible doesn't mention Muhammad, Muslims, Islam, Allah, Mecca, or the Kaaba, although there are some foreboding predictions about these people, their doctrine and spirit. But the reverse is not true. For reasons we shall discuss, Muhammad fancied himself a Jewish prophet, a Messiah even. He claimed that Islam was the original religion of Abraham. He professed that Adam, Noah, Moses, and Esau, Jesus, were really Muslims. And as we have seen, he claimed that the Hebrew Bible and the Christian Gospels were inspired scripture directly from his God. Then he said they were all corrupt, which made his message necessary. This is underscored in the 163rd verse of the 4th surah.
Surely we, that's Allah, have revealed to you, Muhammad, as we revealed to Noah and the prophets after him, and we revealed to Abraham and Ishmael and Isaac and Jacob and their offspring, and the tribes of Israel, and Jesus and Job and Jonah, and Aaron and Solomon. We gave to David the book of Psalms, and we sent apostles and Moses, to whom Allah spoke his word directly. All of these apostles of good news and warners were sent so that the people should not have a plea against Allah.
None of these men were apostles. Ishmael, Isaac, Jacob, Job, Aaron, and Solomon weren't even prophets. David was one of many writers of Psalms, and Moses spoke to Yahweh, not Allah. In Quran 3:3 we read, He, that's Allah, has verily revealed to you this book, the Quran, in truth, and confirmation of the books revealed before, as indeed he had revealed the Torah and the Gospel. This is confirmed. Surah 5, verse 46. Later, in the train of the prophets, we, Allah, sent Jesus, that's Isa, son of Mary, confirming the Torah which had been sent down before him, and gave him the Gospel containing guidance and light, which corroborated the earlier Torah.